Hi guys, welcome back to the Pageant project. Hope you're having a great week. I have been watching the Fallout series on Amazon Prime. Now, for those of you who don't know, Fallout, the series, is based on Fallout, the video game. And specifically, Fallout New Vegas is a game I played many, many years ago. It's a pretty old game at this point, but it's considered to be one of the classics. Anyway, I saw because I've been watching the series, I assume, and you know how YouTube algorithms work, they seem to secretly know what you've been watching, and they also seem to be secretly even eavesdropping on your conversation. I don't know if you've ever had that experience where you've been talking to a friend about, I don't know, recycling bins, and then next thing you know, composting bins, and then next thing you know, you go to Amazon and hey, look, hey presto, it's suggesting a compost bin. It's really quite eerie. But because I've been watching it, a YouTube video surfaced and it was about Fallout. And don't worry, I'm getting to pageants. Okay, we haven't turned into a TV review or video review podcast. But the title of the video caught my eye because it said Fallout, a show by morons for morons. As in a show written by morons for morons. And I took a bit of an exception at that. I won't say I watched the video, but look, any show is not going to be everyone's cup of tea. But to say it is not only written by morons, but it is for morons, got me thinking. Now, this is where I will link it back to pageants, because I've had a lot of experience with pageant contestants or their mums, their parents, if they're younger contestants, asking me for my opinion about what they should be trying to do or what their daughters should be trying to do or doing. Now, sometimes it's as innocuous as they're a young contestant, let's say a teen or a preteen, and do I think they should be wearing a one-piece or a two-piece? And that's fine. You can get my opinion on that. And by all means, if you have questions like that, ask them of me. The ones I worry about slightly is where people seem to be asking, where you guys seem to be asking me, what is it that you should want? What is it that you should be trying to do? And specifically, I had a young girl, I think she's probably 8 or 9 years old, who was at our last mock interview. And if you don't know, we run mock interviews every Thursday night at 8 p.m. EST. If you'd like to sign up for that, it's only $19.99 per session. That's US dollars. And you can go to pageantmock.com. Now, I wasn't anticipating someone that young being on the mock interview, and that's fine. And she did very well. But it's where people or where parents keep asking me, what do I think the judges are looking for? And because of that, what do I think you should be saying or their daughter should be saying? How do I think you should structure your interview? And I'm happy to give my feedback, don't get me wrong. But what concerns me, and this happens very, very regularly, all the way up to the highest echelons of pageantry, Miss USA, Miss Universe, you name it. And it seems to me, sorry for the car noise because I'm sat in my car, obviously, if you're listening to this, maybe it's not obvious, but I'm recording in my car today. You need to know what it is you want first and foremost, and you need to give that serious consideration if you haven't thought about it before, A, or B, it's coming to a new year, or you haven't competed for a while, or you did compete last year. You need to give it serious thought on a consistent basis, let's say once a year or after every pageant, because what it is you want from pageant, you can call it your pageant why, should be evolving as you continue to compete. As you get clearer on what it is you want, on both what it is you want, but really importantly, what it is you don't want. And nowhere is this clearer to me that this is a huge problem. When I get on a mock interview and we video all our mock interviews and I send the replays, and I do that not just as a value add, although it is that, I do that because I want you, I need you to see your own interview, to listen to it back, to watch it back, and for you to have an understanding of what it is you look like, what it is you sound like. And further than that, is that what you want? Is that how you want to come across? Is that the sort of answer you want to give? Do you look like you're too all over the place with your focus being on a million things, and you look like you're far too in your head and your answers ramble too long? Do you look like you're devoid of personality? Do you look like you're showing off? Do you look confident, or do you look arrogant? All these things. And the reason I say it really is apparent when it comes to interviews, because at this stage, I think, without exaggeration, there's probably 80% of you have not seen yourself give an interview answer more than once. Let's say 80% of you have certainly not seen yourself doing an interview on a consistent basis. Now, why does this matter? You say, well, Adrian, I'm going to you for coaching. I'm going to XYZ for coaching. They're supposed to be the pageant expert. Okay, sure. But let me ask you this. Would you drive down a highway blindfolded with only me giving you directions? I don't think so. And the reason is because you need to know what's going on. The thing when it comes to, I know that might sound a bit facetious, but what you need to understand about communication is, and I'll link it back to interview. Let's say someone gives you the feedback, you need to shorten your answers more. Okay, maybe your answers are a bit long. And you go, fine, yep, I get that. But what does that mean? Right? What does shorten your answers more mean? Now, to your coach, it might mean we're aiming for roughly 30 seconds per answer. You might think that means, all my answers need to be 10 or 15 seconds long. Another common piece of feedback is you need to show more personality, or you need to be yourself. Now, first off, I hate that piece of advice specifically because it's so generic, vague, and open to interpretation, and it means completely different things to different people. But your coach might mean one thing by that. You might think that, you need to suddenly start cracking a joke all the time, or start acting with, I don't know, more sort of all over the place emotion and being a bit crazy. And here's the thing, there is no right or wrong with that. So now you're completely without guidance. Your coach has told you one thing, show more personality. That's a vague piece of advice at best. You don't know exactly what it means. And by the way, even if you think you know what it means, it's different to what your coach meant. And suddenly, because you're not watching your own feedback, you're not watching your own videos, you're not watching your own interviews, you start acting in a way that if you just watched it once, you'd go, no, this is silly. Why am I acting like this? That's not me. But that's the exact reason when I say, and I'll link, this is the reason I started with the Fallout thing. And, Fallout apparently being a show written by morons for morons. I watch a show, I watch a movie for my own reasons. Frankly, when I used to game more often, I game for my own reasons. And I occasionally still game with my brother, but I will tell him, I don't want to go to games to be challenged with things that are inordinately difficult. I go to game to have some fun and to escape. Now, other people might go to games to have that challenge and to try and do things that only 1% of the entire population who's ever played the game can do. If you think back to if you watched the most recent Star Wars trilogy, the sequel ones, the ones with Rey as the main character, I hated them because I feel they did a huge amount of disservice to the existing characters in that franchise. Other people loved it. But here's the thing. You should know what your own reasons are for doing anything. And outside of obviously being open to advice, you should never let someone tell you, whether it's a coach or whether it's a critic, that your reasons are wrong and that somehow they make you a moron. And when it comes to things like pageants, probably the easiest example, the clearest example of this is when you choose your pageant to begin with. Now, do you choose Miss USA? Do you choose Miss World? Do you choose Miss America? Do you choose Miss Earth? There's endless amount of choice. But there are a lot of people, myself included, by the way, who have very strong opinions on which pageants, let's say, they align with, or which pageants are their favorite. And so, for example, I've made no bones about it. I am not a fan of the Miss Grand system. And that certainly did not change. My opinion did not change for the better when I saw the way that its international director or owner, Nawat, acted at Miss Universe. And he completely lost any remaining respect I had for him. And so I have a certain opinion about the Miss Grand system, and if you decide to compete in it, I might have an opinion about you. I will try to remain open-minded, of course. But I still have my opinions, and by the way, I have my reasons for my opinions. But if Miss Grand is your cup of tea, let's say you love the over-the-top sort of fanfare, the showmanship of it, where you go up and you don't announce yourself so much as you seem to scream your name and your country in a way that's going to make you become a meme. If you like that, if you like the way that they walk and all the little hand signals, the emojis, and trying to be super cute and being very, very sassy and not having that much, and again, this is my opinion, I don't think there's much substance behind Miss Grand. I think the advocacy with Miss Grand is pretty, let's say, performative at best. But if that's you, and you want to do that, and you like that, and you love interacting with the fans in that way, and you love having the chance to strut your stuff in that way, don't listen to what I say. I mean, here's a more mature way of saying it. Listen to what other people say, but understand that different people want different things from the same experience for different reasons, right? When I watched the Fallout series, and by the way, I've really enjoyed it, it's because I enjoy watching the way the showrunners have brought a video game world to life. And by the way, in case you don't know, the Fallout video game world is one of those ones that has a lot of lore baked into it, lore being Lore. And that's one of the reasons I fell into it. I fell in love with it. There's a lot of world building that goes into it, rivaling, huge things like Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Twilight, if there's lore in that, or, what's that other one? The dragon one. Game of Thrones, sorry. Can you tell I haven't watched it? But you might look at shows like that and go, oh, there's so much lore in it. The character development is so peak. And you'd be right. Some video games have that, and even more than that. So I was very interested as someone who played the game to see how the showrunners brought a fictitious world to life. And, there's powered suits of armor, there's giant monsters, and there are nuanced characters, there are ghouls, there are people. And really, at the end of the day, Fallout is about how people deal with a post-apocalyptic situation. And you see many people are kind of, have fallen into their more base instincts. But to cut a long story short, that's what I've loved about the Fallout series. And so when I saw that YouTube video about Fallout being a show written by morons for morons, a part of me started wondering, well, does that mean I'm a moron? And that's what got me thinking, well, hang on, you're saying that because you're judging the show through the prism of what it is you wanted from the show. And it obviously didn't meet your expectations, and that's fine. Whereas what I want from the show is entertainment. I want to see how they brought the world to life and bring it to life in a way that I think is interesting and realistic. And hey, it ticked all the boxes for me. Do I think that's a perfect show? By the way, absolutely not. But I've really enjoyed it. And yet here is someone on YouTube, someone who has a lot of subscribers, an expert in inverted commas, telling me that if I love it, basically it's because I'm a moron. And so in the same way, if I dislike a certain pageant, or your coach dislikes a certain system, or someone on YouTube, a pageant expert, I hate that label, says that, oh, you should like this one, you should like that one, of course you can take their advice into consideration. But you need to start with what it is you want. Why are you competing? And I get worried by the fact that many of you don't seem to have given that any consideration, or not enough consideration. And I get worried that you let your coach or your parents or your friends or your idols dictate what system it is that you should enter, or what you should say in an interview, what talent you should or should not be doing. And look, it's all well and good to take advice, and certainly you should, but you need to start with the base of what is it that you want. Just as I said, like, why am I watching a show? It's not because I really, let's say I'm not playing a game because I really want to think deep thoughts. I really want to be challenged. I go for a bit of escapism, a bit of fun. I don't want to have to be playing it every day to get the value out of it. That's not what I want. But why are you entering a pageant? Are you someone who wants the deeper advocacy, the chance to build a bigger platform? Okay, then measure the systems according to what it is you want, not what someone on YouTube or Instagram or a podcast says. And so I say this, and some of you I'm sure have given that thought, and so this is just a reminder to continue doing that and how important it is. But from my coaching experience, many of you have either given it no thought or you've given it only a surface level thought. And as I said, your pageant why should be evolving as you evolve. I don't think it should be exactly the same as when you competed last year, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, or 10 years ago. And quite frankly, I think it should evolve certainly with each major pageant that you compete in. And you should be honing it down, evolving it, making it better each time, and better in terms of it calls to you more, it resonates with you more, your pageant why. It's like peeling away the layers of the onion. And so my call to you this week is really simple. Know what it is you want. Write it down. Put it down somewhere where you can revisit it on a consistent basis, not necessarily every day, but as I said, at least once a year or after every major pageant you compete in. And the reward is, as you get clearer on that, you will find your pageant journey much, much, much more rewarding and fulfilling, regardless of where you place or whether you win or not. That's the end game. For you to look at your pageant experience, your pageant journey, and go, you know what? That was worth my time. That was worth my money because XYZ. And XYZ is your reasons. That's why I can't say what it is. That's why I'm saying XYZ is because your reasons should be, and very often will be, different to the woman competing next to you. So make sure you do that. Promise that to me, because I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm not here to tell you what to say. And I think there are far too many coaches who are willing to do that and ready to tell you, oh, if you just say this, you'll win. Or I'm going to break you down and build you up, and you're going to say exactly what I told you to say because that got so-and-so to win Miss USA 20 years ago. I think that's a whole lot of BS. I think you need to start with what it is you want. You need to start with self-awareness. And that's the reason why I do the replays when it comes to interviews. That's the same reason why I would say you need to watch a video of yourself walking. And I've had expertise with all this sort of watching yourself back, because if you don't know, that's how I taught myself tennis. And teaching yourself tennis is not something that common wisdom would say that you can do. People would say you need a coach. I thought differently. I wanted to be hands-on and intimately involved with my own development as a tennis player. And I will say, and I'll take this to my grave, I got better at tennis teaching myself than I ever would have with any sort of conventional coaching, because I knew exactly what it was that I was doing because I could see it. And I knew what I wanted to achieve and why. So I hope that helps. Especially apply it to which pageants you're going to compete in, but also apply it to how you answer an interview and how you walk on stage, what you wear when you're competing, all those things. Know what it is you want, and your reasons are never wrong. Your reasons are your own. And they could be wildly different to me, wildly different to the woman who's standing next to you on stage, and that's okay. So next time you see something like your show is written by morons for morons, or your pageant is by morons for morons, they have their opinion. I'm not saying they're wrong, but don't let it affect your opinion. You can take into consideration, as I said, but you got to know your own reasons to begin with. See you next week.